Our little baby girl was born March 16th at 9 a.m. She was 8 pounds exactly, and she's 20 inches long, and her name was Scarlett Olivia Hart. Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, my name is Kathleen Hart, and by the title of this video, this is going to be my birth story for my daughter. I also have a son who just turned 2 on March 12th, and my daughter was just born March 16th, 2020. And also too, if you don't follow me on social media like Instagram, you don't know her name yet. So our little baby girl was born March 16th at 9 a.m. She was 8 pounds exactly, and she's 20 inches long, and her name was Scarlett Olivia Hart. So really quick, I decided on Scarlett because when I was little, my grandpa always used to call me Scarlett from Gone with the Wind. I guess I'm a little outspoken and sassy and independent. So that's where that nickname came from, and ever since then I knew that if I had a girl, her name would be Scarlett. But today's video, we're gonna focus on her birth story. It's gonna be my complete, raw, real, honest, every detail that I can remember. It was a couple days ago now, but I'm gonna give my honest reaction to everything, including like birth and things like that. So if you don't think you can handle that, maybe you should click out, but yeah, it's gonna be real and honest. So I actually have my day planner here because I actually went into the hospital a few days before she was born because I thought that I was in labor, which I wasn't. And I just want to give you guys accurate dates to go along with what I'm talking about. If you guys follow me along on some of my other videos, I did a 38-week update, which I will link up here and down below too if you would like to catch up and if you want to watch that. On that day, I was supposed to get checked by the doctor, and I chickened out. He gave me the option to not get checked, and I took it. And I said, yeah, I don't want to get checked. I was so scared. And with my son, I had him early. I had him at 36 weeks, so I never got to these appointments. So I chickened out. I didn't get checked. Well, something out there in the universe said that I had to get checked. That night at midnight, I ended up going into the hospital and going into triage because I thought that I was leaking amniotic fluid. Long story short, I was there for 3 hours and ended up coming home around 4 a.m. I was not leaking fluid, and they did a bunch of tests on me and everything. I wasn't, having contractions or anything, but they did check me twice, and I was 2 centimeters dilated at that point. So at least I knew how much I had progressed, but again, I was not in labor. So that was March 11th, and that was a Wednesday. Okay, so let's fast forward. That was Wednesday, coming up to the next Sunday, which was March 15th. I went to bed like normal, and at 1:30, my son's monitor was like going off because he was tossing and turning and he was awake, which never happens. So it was weird. I was up at 1:30 in the morning on the morning of March 16th, and I started having like mild, I would call them period cramps. It was nothing. It was kind of like the aches and pains that I had been having the last couple weeks. And I never had Braxton Hicks with my son, so these could have been Braxton Hicks. I'm gonna go with that in the previous days. But then on this night, they did end up getting worse and worse and worse. So I went back to sleep. At 3:30 in the morning, I was like jolted awake, literally right here. Right here. And I was like, oh my gosh, like this hurts. Like it was starting to hurt. Like low level pain still. I could totally tolerate it. I could breathe through it. I could talk through it. It was fine. But it was definitely worse than it was at 1:30. Looked at my son's monitor, he was back asleep. So I was like, all right, let me get up and walk around, let me have some water. I was only at that point, I was 1 day away from being 39 weeks. So I was 38 weeks and, what is that, 6 days? Whatever, however they calculate it. I didn't turn 39 weeks until the day after, till the 17th. So I'm walking around my living room, I'm trying to drink water. I definitely was feeling more and more intense pain. I downloaded a free contraction calculator app thing from the App Store, and I just started timing my contractions just to see how long they were lasting and then how far apart they were. So they were averaging between, I would say, 4 minutes to 5 minutes apart, and they were lasting about a minute to a minute and a half. And I mean, some of them were obviously going to be a little bit shorter. They were like 45 seconds and some were longer, and the app tracked all of that for you. So I did that for probably an hour and a half. Yeah, it was getting more and more intense. And the only way that I had felt contractions the first time with my son that I had to compare it to was being induced. So I was in the hospital, totally being induced from 0 to 60, you know, from nothing at 36 weeks. So the contractions when you're being induced are a little bit more intense, and they get intense a lot quicker. This kind of like felt like it was going slow to me. So because a couple days ago I had gone to the hospital as like kind of like crying wolf, I was really hesitant to call my sister, call my mom, to have them come to my house to sit with the baby, or my toddler, to sit with him while he was sleeping at 4 in the morning. It was a whole thing like in my head. I was like, do I really go into the hospital again? Because I had to do that the first time. I had to call them at midnight and say, hey, I think I'm in labor. I think my water broke. And then ended up coming back home at 4 a.m. So this time I was like, just torn between not wanting to waste anybody's time, but yet I think I'm in labor. Like, I think these contractions are getting worse. So long story short, we ended up calling them. I called my doctor. He said that I should come in, but he also said, you might want to wait a little bit. And to me, I was like, well, clearly I'm having contractions. Clearly they're getting worse. Like, why are you telling me to wait? And then I said to him, well, you know, I have to call somebody to come and watch my son. So that's going to be 45 minutes and then another, you know, 20 minutes till I get to the hospital. And he was like, oh, definitely call them. Definitely. If you're not going to be here for another hour and a half, like, call them. So that's why I was like, oh geez, like, I'm really nervous that this is going to be like progress really quickly. That was always my biggest fear. So my birth plan was always to get an epidural as soon as possible and not go through a lot of pain like I did with my son. I was really nervous at this point, but I was also like kind of like going in, like getting stuck inside my body. Like, I didn't want to talk to anybody. I was just trying to like internalize and like breathe through the contractions. And like, even with my son, I was very in my head. Like, it didn't even matter if my husband was in the room or not. Like, I didn't want him touching me. I didn't want anybody talking to me. Yeah, so anyway, that's that. But my sister came, we ended up driving to the hospital, and we got to the hospital, I want to say by maybe 5 a.m. I'm guessing. I should have written these times down. I know a little bit more closer to the birth about what time everything happened, but when we were in triage, the doctor that I had kind of upset me a little bit. Because when I got there, I was 5 centimeters dilated, and the contractions were really intense at that point, to the point where I was trying to breathe through them, I was trying to talk through them, but they were getting to the point where like I was really hurting. Like, not the worst pain ever, but like probably a 6 or a 7 at that point, just when I was in triage. So anyway, I get there, they check me, I am 5 centimeters, but they're telling me that the baby isn't having a reaction when I'm having a contraction. Meaning that like, normally when you're having a contraction and you're in active labor, the baby's heart rate will increase, or the baby will, you know, be doing things on the monitor to alert the doctors that like, yes, she knows that's happening. You know, she's gonna be born. That wasn't happening. They're trying to get me to drink juice. It's giving me nausea. I was just like upset that I was there, and I knew I was in labor, and they said that I was in labor, but they weren't admitting me yet. So the doctor said, all right, we have to wait an hour, which to me was insane because I already was feeling so much intense pain with these contractions, and they were getting closer together, and they were more intense. And I knew I was 5 centimeters dilated, which to me blows my mind because I I know that people get epidurals when they're like 1 centimeter and 2 centimeters. So I was like, that's all I was looking for, was that end in sight, was that epidural, just to like let me enjoy the experience of the whole childbirth. So anyway, after an hour, she comes back and she says, oh, there's still not a lot of fetal movement, you know, we need to wake her up. So I was laying on different sides trying to get her to wake up. And I mean, they told me to drink this cranberry juice, but it was disgusting, so I was not really drinking it. But then she checked me again and she said that I was 6 centimeters. And she walks out and the nurse comes in, and she was kind of like playing like good cop, bad cop. So the nurse comes in and she's like, I don't know why she's not admitting you. This isn't right. And I told them from the minute I walked into triage, I told this nurse, who was amazing, I told her, I was like, I want an epidural and I want it now. I like, put it in me now. Like, just do it. Like, let's get this show on the road. And she was like, okay, as long as I know that's what you want, like I can put the calls in for all of those things, even if you're not admitted yet. So after they checked me and said I was 6 centimeters, the doctor ended up saying, oh, you're not progressing. I'm like, isn't that the definition of progressing, going from 5 to 6? Like, I'm not a doctor, but like, hello. So I was just getting so frustrated. I'm like gripping the bed. I am like trying to get through these contractions. It hurt so bad this time. And I only knew that it was gonna get worse, because I know how it works. I know even if you're in triage, like, it's gonna be a while before you get into your room, before they call the anesthesiologist, before you do the paperwork, then they do your fingerprints and they do all these things. And like, I knew that I still had to do all those things before I could get some relief. And it was making me like want to cry. And it was like out of frustration. And finally, the doctor came in and allowed me to be admitted. And she even said it in a way which upset me, because she kind of said it like, oh, reluctantly, like, we're not going to admit you if you're not progressing, if you're not 39 weeks. Meanwhile, I would have been 39 weeks the very next day, and I was progressing. It was just such a weird like mind game. Like, I don't know why this doctor was doing this, and like, maybe there's an answer. I don't have the answer, but I was progressing, and I was in so much pain, and they knew I wanted the epidural. It was like this whole thing. I'm glad it's behind me. However, I'm just telling my story. So finally they admit me. That's when it got real, because the pain got so intense. Like on a scale from 1 to 10, I felt like it was a 20. It was so much pain. And if I could explain it to anybody who is looking for it feels like this. So what would happen is, and this happens a lot too when you're in labor, because your body has so much adrenaline going through it, I would start shaking. It's almost like that adrenaline, like your body's just shaking, almost like you're cold, but it's an adrenaline shake. And this is why it was so bad, because I knew a contraction, like a big contraction, was coming by how much I would be shaking. So I would start shaking in my legs and my hands, my whole body would start shaking. And then very shortly after that, I would start getting pains in my lower back. So I would say like right, like if your pelvis is in the front, right directly behind it, I would start getting shooting pains starting in the side and going right to the middle. And it would be like a constant pressure pain, like someone was stabbing you with a knife. And then it would slowly creep around to the front of my belly underneath. And it would feel like someone was putting a knife in you on both sides and just twisting it like this, just like so much pain to the point where like I was yelling things that like are kind of embarrassing at this point. It was really bad. It was bad, but I couldn't help it. Like, I could not help what was coming out of my mouth. I couldn't help the moaning. I couldn't help the screaming. Like, I literally was just in so much pain. And I can't even believe now, telling the story, that I even survived that. And I know that sounds completely dramatic. It sounds ridiculous, but when you're in it, you're just dealing with this intense pain, and there's absolutely nothing that anybody can do, well, besides the anesthesiologist or having the baby. I don't know how people do it at home in a bathtub with no anesthesia. I don't know how people do it. I mean, I guess they obviously do it every day. They've done it for years and years and years, but I give you so much props, because I felt like I was dying. And I said those exact words, someone is killing me. Like, you guys would probably laugh. I didn't tape any of this because I didn't really want to. I don't really want to remember that part of it. We did film a little bit, and I'll put clips in, of course, at the end or when I'm talking about it, but the pain was excruciating. And once I got there, like I said, we had to do a little bit of paperwork. They did like they did your fingerprints for the paper that has the baby's footprints and handprint and everything on it. Or no, not handprint, just footprints. But they did all that, and all this time I'm dealing with these contractions every, I would say, 2 minutes now. And then what happened right before the anesthesiologist came in was they started coming 2 and 3 at a time. So just when I'm dealing with these contractions that kind of like creep up like this, and then they level out and they're bad, 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 and then they go back down. I was dealing with that, and then it would dip, and then it would go right back up into a really bad contraction. So I was dealing with 2 and 3 of those in a row, and the nurse even said, she was like, oh my gosh, she actually said like, I'm sorry, like this is crazy, like you're having contractions, multiple ones in a row. And I was like, I need this epidural so bad. And now is when I'm gonna get real with you guys. So, like I haven't already, but you know what I mean. So the anesthesiologist finally comes in, and like I wanted to cry because the contractions were so bad at that point. It was ridiculous. I was 8 centimeters dilated, which is a mind blown point for me because I never thought that I would have reached that point in labor without an epidural. I never thought I could do it. So I guess I'm proud of myself for that. I don't know. I guess I would have much rather have had it at 5 centimeters. But so she comes in, and the contractions are literally coming 2 and 3 at a time, and she is prepping my back. I'm having these contractions. I'm having to sit up in a position just like this, and she's having me sit a little bit different this time. So I don't know if different people and different hospitals do it differently, but I had to like kind of like slump and keep my shoulders really relaxed and just lean over the bed like this and just be sitting at the end. And as this is happening, I'm having contractions, and I'm 8 centimeters dilated, and I literally feel the baby's head pushing on me, and my body is like pretty much telling me to push, and I'm like, oh my god, like this is the weirdest, craziest feeling of my life. And it was nuts. So then the anesthesiologist asks me, do you feel like you have to push? And I immediately said no, because I didn't want anything to stop me from getting this epidural. Like I didn't know if I said yes that they would be like, all right, put her on her back, let's go, let's push. And I was like, no, like this can't happen. So I lied. I don't know if that was the right thing to do. I wasn't thinking clearly. Obviously, I didn't know what the right answer was. So I just lied and said no. Meanwhile, I finally get the epidural, which to me does not hurt at all. Anybody who's hesitant of getting an epidural, I've gotten 2. Neither of them hurt. You don't feel anything. You literally feel someone like pushing on your back. That's it. That's all you feel. And then you feel like a cold sensation when the medication is being put in, but I didn't feel anything. I would tell anyone who is hesitant about getting an epidural to get one, because that to me was nothing. And it's not even like in comparison. It's like I would get an epidural right this second. I'm not in any kind of pain, but I wouldn't be scared to get it. Put it that way. So yeah, anyone who wants an epidural, get it. Don't be afraid. It didn't hurt me. I didn't have any complications. I've gotten 2. Best thing that I ever did. Okay, so finally get the epidural. It is 7:45 in the morning. I finally get the epidural, and it took probably maybe 20 minutes to actually work to the point where I stopped feeling my contractions, which was crazy because when I was getting it, I was getting these contractions and I was like, okay, like mind over matter, just focus, and these are gonna be the last contractions that you feel, and then you're gonna be like so much better, everything's gonna be fine. Meanwhile, like I don't know why, but this time it just took a lot longer to take effect for me. And yeah, I still got contractions for like 20 minutes, and they were really intense and really bad. And I was like, when is this gonna end? And then I started getting nervous that the epidural didn't work. But anyway, it did work. So now it's 8:15, we're good. The doctor comes in and she's like, how do you feel? How's the epidural? I'm like, I finally don't feel my contractions, but I still feel pressure. So she's like, okay, I'm gonna check you. Well, she checks me. I was 10 centimeters. I was 100% effaced. I was everything. I was ready, literally ready to go. So she was like, all right, well, we're ready to have a baby, I guess. And right after that, so after that happened, I'm gonna get a little bit gross possibly and tell you that all of a sudden I was like, okay, like I can feel things, but I can't feel pain and I can't feel temperature. So if something was hot or cold, like I couldn't feel it, but I could feel liquid, which will explain this next part. But anyway, so I'm laying there and I'm like, oh no, like I don't know why, but I feel like water running down my leg kind of. And meanwhile, all of a sudden you literally hear pop, and then you hear like air is being released from like a balloon, and then like I felt like a bunch of water. Meanwhile, that was my water breaking. The pop was so loud, it sounded like that. It was so nuts, and I felt that too, which was crazy. So I didn't feel the pain, but I could feel like all the pressure, and I ended up being able to feel everything but without the pain, if that even makes sense. Like I could feel the pressure of everything and I could feel what was happening, but nothing hurt and nothing was uncomfortable either. It was just like the pressure, you could feel the pressure. Which sometimes when people say that, it sounds like negative, like it would hurt, but it doesn't. It just means like you can feel it, but it doesn't have any kind of pain that comes along with it. I don't know if that makes sense. Let me know. But that's what was happening to me right now. So the epidural worked to me perfectly. So I started pushing at about 8:30 and pushed for about half an hour-ish, taking lots of breaks. But because I could feel more this time and I could feel the pressure, I could feel when she was pushing down and like when the contractions, I couldn't feel the contractions, but they would tell me, and I could feel her head pushing down at the same time. So they would tell me when the contractions were coming, and then I'm like, yeah, I can tell that that's happening. So that's when I would be pushing. So I pushed for about 25 minutes and baby Scarlett was born at exactly 9 o'clock. So
Can you just take this wet blanket out? She's here.
So that was crazy. I felt like I was in such a better headspace when she was born this time, but when I actually had her, I felt her come out. I felt all of that. Like I said, I could feel the pressure, so I could feel her literally coming out. It was so crazy. It was like the weirdest, craziest sensation ever. It feels like exactly how you would think it would feel. It was just like tumbled out. Like it was so nuts. But I was just so happy that it was over, I guess, and that now like the labor part is over, and like, okay, thank God, everything's good. She started crying right away. She was a good color. She was so incredibly cute. They put her like on me for skin to skin right away. It was just amazing. Jay was right there. He was like crying. He was so happy. It was just like the best moment ever. It was so much different from when I had my son. Like I knew what to expect this time, and I knew what was to come, and it was only good things. Like, okay, now we start healing. Now I'm not pregnant anymore. Thank God. Like now everything is just like, it's like you're on an upswing. So I was just so super excited. I was so happy. Like, I don't even know if I cried, like, because I was just so happy. Like all you see in the video of me holding the baby is like me smiling like so big. Like I was just so happy. So she was born at exactly 9 a.m. on March 16th, which was Monday. And she was 20 inches long and exactly 8 pounds. So she was perfect in my eyes, and she's doing great now. She is, she turned 2 weeks old yesterday. So I'm filming this on, what day is today? Last day of March, right? Yeah, March 31st. So I just wanted to also go into a little bit of the aftercare, and as well as we are in the middle of the coronavirus pandemic. We're quarantined right now. We're self-quarantined. This was 2 weeks ago that I had her. So I just wanted to kind of give you the situation that my hospital was dealing with 2 weeks ago, and with the coronavirus and keeping the spread down and the policies and things like that. I want to go into a little bit of that in this video. As you know, everything changes day to day. Like everything is changing every day. So this video is probably not even going to be relevant maybe by the time you're watching it. And the rules are changing every day. So who knows? But I just wanted to tell you kind of my experience with dealing with this and dealing with it at the hospital as well. But after I had her, they had to do two stitches. So they had to do 2 stitches. So they did that. And in the meantime, you know, I was just holding the baby. That's probably the part that is like the most uncomfortable weirdness to me, because right after you have the baby, they put the baby on you, they cut the cord, and or my husband cut the cord, and she's just kind of like laying on you. They're cleaning her a little bit, like getting everything out of, suctioning out her mouth and things like that. And in the meantime though, your legs are up and the doctor is stitching you, fixing you, making sure everything's good. Thank God the epidural was working at this point, because I don't want to feel any of that either. That was another thing that kind of scared me. I wasn't sure if I didn't get an epidural or if it didn't work, if I would feel that. So that kind of made me nervous, but that ended up being fine. I did not feel anything, and that was all good. After that, they end up putting you in another room that is going to be your recovery room. So at my hospital, it's actually a labor and delivery hospital, which is amazing. So the only people that are in this building are people who are giving birth, and that's it. So you don't have to worry about sick people being in there, or people who are, you know, admitted for long term or with diseases or anything. There's nothing in this hospital. It's its own building on the same campus. So that's always been why I love this hospital so much. And it's actually the same hospital that I had my son at, so I knew it really well. Jay knew it really well. It's 15 minutes from my house. It was amazing. So we're in our recovery room. So nice. The nurses are so nice. Everything was great. I ended up ordering some food, and yeah, everything was just perfect. So we ended up staying, or I ended up staying Monday, Tuesday, and I was discharged on Wednesday. We were able to leave by about noon on Wednesday, and that was great. To be honest, I was crawling the walls, and I wish I could have left on Tuesday, because I just didn't need to stay there any longer. Like, I just wanted to get home, take like a home shower, wash my hair, like just get out of there. And it's different. It's not like you're staying at a hotel. It's like you're in a hospital. So if you want food, like you have to order it, and then you have to wait like an hour. You can't just like walk and get like whatever you want from your fridge. And same thing with like TV and stuff. Like you can't watch Netflix. Like I guess you could if you brought like your computer and stuff, but like you're at the mercy of like their TV, and then the bed's not comfortable. So I just like wanted to get that heck out of there. I know some people, like the first time when I was pregnant, I didn't want to leave, because I loved that the nurses came in and educated me and helped me and like told me what to do, and you know, helped me with the baby and like all this stuff. But like this time I was like, I got this. Like I just want to get out of here and get home. Once we did get home on Wednesday, I was just so relieved and so happy. And I've said this my entire pregnancy, because if you didn't know already, I had a huge fear of giving birth and labor and all of that, and it's still reigns true. Like I never want to do that again, and I don't plan on getting pregnant again. I just wanted 2 kids. So thank God we had a boy and a girl, which is great. If we have one of each, I'm done. But in the meantime, the whole pregnancy, this time and the first time, all I said was like, I can't wait to be home with the baby, holding her on my couch, watching something on TV, like with labor in the past. Like I just couldn't wait to get it over with. So that's kind of how I feel now. I'm just one of those people, like I'm not going to sugarcoat it. Like I do not like giving birth. I don't like labor. I don't know who does, but I definitely don't. And I'm just glad that it's all completely over. Now that being said, I wanted to just get into a little bit about the policies at my hospital this time around. So with the coronavirus, you were only allowed to have one other person in the hospital room with you at all times. So your support person. So at this point it was obviously going to be Jay, and I didn't plan ever on having anybody else. I know some people like to have their mom and their husband, or you know, their sister and their husband, or other family members or whoever, but in this case they only allowed me to have one person, and that was fine because that was our plan anyway. They also didn't allow any photographers coming in. So like normally they would have like a newborn photographer like come into your room like the second day of your stay, and she would like be like, oh, do you want pictures? And then they would take them, and you can decide if you wanted to buy them or not. They weren't having any outside vendors come in, and they also weren't allowing any visitors at all. You know, there's 2 ways you can look at that. Sometimes after you give birth, you're kind of like just feeling like exhausted and overwhelmed, especially if it's your first baby, and you're just like, okay, now everyone's gonna come into my room and like, you know, you can look at it that way, or you can look at it like, you know, I can't wait to see my family and I can't wait for them to meet my baby. There's two different mindsets to look at. Either way, it stinks because nobody could come in to see the baby at all at that point. Nobody was allowed to have visitors. Like, it wasn't just me, it wasn't just anybody. They were just having no visitors come in whatsoever. Austin couldn't even come in to meet his sister. So he stayed home the whole time. And you know, that was kind of a bummer, but at the same time, I don't think, my son's very shy. I don't think he would have liked coming into a hospital and then seeing me in a bed and then meeting a baby who he's only 2. I don't think he would have understood it anyway. So like, it all was for the best. And to be honest, my husband didn't even really stay at the hospital with us at all because Austin ended up getting sick. So that is another video that I don't know if you guys want me to film. Let me know down in the comments. We ended up all getting very, very sick the week that the baby was born. The baby did not get sick. But I am curious to know if we could get an at-home test to know if that was corona. Yeah, our symptoms were pretty crazy and all 3 of us got it. And there's a couple other weird twists and turns in there too. So let me know down in the comments if you want me to do a video about that, about how we were sick, and then I can get your take and see if you think we had it or not. Or since the birth of my daughter, the hospital that I'm at has now changed the rules again. They actually aren't even allowing anyone in the hospital with the birth mother until they're admitted. So the whole time I was in triage for like those 2 hours, I wouldn't have been able to have Jay with me. He wouldn't have been able to come in until I was literally getting the anesthesia or getting the epidural to give birth. So that would have been crazy. They even say, they're like, they can wait in the car. I'm like, oh my gosh, that's so crazy. Like, I mean, I'm sure Jay would have been happy waiting in the car rather than hear me screaming, but it is just crazy, especially for people who are first-time moms who like really want that support person with them. I'm the kind of person where I kind of like internalize it a lot, and like I don't want anyone touching me. Like I said, I don't want anyone talking to me. I just need to like get through it, and then scream, and then I get the epidural and I'm like, hey, what's up? And everybody's like, she was just the devil like 2 minutes ago. Like, who is this person? So I would have been okay with that, but I could see how it could be really like emotionally hard for people who need that support person. But yeah, that's what they've changed to. And then they've changed to anybody that has been around someone who's tested positive for corona, or someone who has tested positive themselves. I don't even think they're allowed in the hospital. I could be wrong at this point, but I don't even think they're allowed in. And if the mom tests positive, it's a whole nother story, because I think they ended up having to quarantine certain moms from it. In my area, luckily, it's not too crazy yet. It hasn't like run rampant like in some areas. I am in Eastern Pennsylvania, by the way, in case anyone's new to my channel. Pretty close to the New Jersey border. All right, so that is the birth story of Scarlett Olivia Hart. I just want to thank you guys for watching, and thank you so much for your support during all my pregnancy updates. I'm happy to report that we are all home, we are all healthy and happy, and just right now hunkered down. Yeah, we are just quarantined at home. So it's been nuts. Follow me on Instagram for everyday updates and pictures of the babies, and I have a lot of fun videos coming for you guys too. The corona video, I'm pretty sure I'm gonna film that anyway because it's just an interesting story. But then I also have my postpartum updates. I'm definitely gonna give you guys like statistics and things like that, what my weights are coming up too. And yeah, I hope you guys like this one. If you did, definitely give me a thumbs up, subscribe if you are new, and make sure that your notification bell is turned on so you don't miss any notifications for when I put out a new video. I am back. It took a little bit of a break because this quarantine life has got me all sorts of messed up, and having a newborn, having a toddler. My husband's working from home. I'm on maternity leave. It's an S show around here, so if you guys like watching that kind of stuff, definitely subscribe as well. But I will see you really soon with a new video. Make sure you check down below in the description box for all the links and all the you know, useful information down there. But I'll see you guys really soon with a new video. Until then, I hope you have an awesome day, and I hope you're all staying sane while being like quarantined and socially distancing from everybody. But yeah, hashtag stay at home. But see you guys in my next video. Bye.
You